Hello, everyone. This is Daryl Andrews, Coach D. I am very, very excited today to have a special guest. But before I introduce that special guest, I just want to say thank you for taking a look at our session. Um, we've been doing streaming to LinkedIn and Facebook and other sources now for probably about 2 years. And many of you know during the pandemic, we were sort of a source of hope for a lot of people doing these sessions because that was a difficult time for us all. But we just continue on and let our light shine through our voice and with the hope of making a difference in someone's life. So, with that being said, I get the chance to have folks that I interview, but it's rare when you have somebody like real close friend, almost like family that you interview. And I'm just excited today because I have a dear friend, but also an advocate in a space that I'm very passionate about. That's just mental health and wellness, and that's my dear friend Tanya Simmons Reid. And we're just going to have a conversation today about some of the great work she's doing. And my hope is that those of you out there that listen, and I know that a lot of you do, quite a few, that you'll see the significance of what she's doing and the need, and look at what she's offering. And who knows, she has different events throughout the country, participate in her events, or even reach out to her for some insights and wisdom in her area of expertise. So, I can sit here and try to introduce you, my friend, but why don't you just tell our audience out here, Tanya, a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing in the mental health and wellness space. So,
Sure, absolutely. I love Coach D. Yes, it's good to be
yes.
here. We are definitely like family. My husband,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
and your wife, and our children, and
Yes,
it's
all
just
of it,
a
all of it.
great honor
Hmm.
to be here to talk to you about mental health. My name,
Hmm.
again, like you said, is Tanya Simmons Reid. I actually I have a company called Skyrocket Communications, and have shifted within my business, and really taken on mental health as a social impact initiative.
Hmm.
And the reason, because in 2019, my family started a journey when one of our children started their journey with bipolar
Hmm.
disorder. And we cried out, we felt alone, we felt like no one could help us. You also deal with that shame, right? That stigma that we have to get rid of. Like, you know, why would we tell them that when we're going through this? But we have to really get naked, get transparent. And as
Hmm.
we did that, we started to find resources, started to learn
Hmm.
how to navigate this journey
Hmm.
better. And with that, I just heard God clearly say, help others
Hmm.
with awareness and
Yep.
advocacy, because we had
Hmm.
no idea. And so that is
Hmm.
why I birthed Sound Minds Mental Health Awareness and Solutions Conference in
Hmm.
2021. So,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, it was virtual for 2 years. We went hybrid last year and will be hybrid again this year. And it's held in
Hmm.
July during Minority Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah, I'll say this. Obviously, I know your story well. We were right there in the trenches
Word.
with you, right in the trenches with you. We love your family. We love, your, like I said, we know y'all family to us. We don't even call them friends no more. We moved beyond that. But I just wanted to. I got a few more questions I want to ask you about your work. But before I go there, there's a lot of families dealing with what you have dealt with. And I
Mhm.
just know, Tanya, from when my mom, this is a totally different conversation, but when my mom contracted dementia and I was her caretaker, I felt lost. Like, I felt like, what is this? How do I handle it? We brought her into our home. We're trying to figure it out. And then we realized that wasn't going to work. We needed help. And so when things happen, you just, especially when they kind of come out of, you're just like, wow, where did this come from? You're at a loss. You're at a loss of what to do. You're at a loss of who to reach out with. I finally, like for me, I finally reached out to the American, what's that, dementia, the Alzheimer's Association, and they
Mhm.
became a great help to me. I didn't know what to do. And so it's not about my story, really. It's about this story here, what you're sharing. But what would you say to that family that maybe just because there's a lot of them that are out there, are just embarking upon this journey with someone that they love, what would you say to them based upon your knowledge and experience to kind of give them a little bit of hope? Um, that right now it's challenging, but you eventually it'll be okay.
Yeah, the main thing is to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You feel really lonely. You feel like
Hmm.
no one else knows what you're going through, but you're not alone,
Hmm.
and I think that the thing that you did that was so brave was that you reached out. A
Hmm.
lot of times we go under, right?
Hmm.
I know in our culture, a lot of us, what happens in this house stays in this house, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't talk
Hmm. Yep.
about
Yep.
outside, and I think that the main thing to do is to let someone know you need help.
Yeah.
But be careful, I know that, all of us, and that's what I'm learning through my advocacy, is to be more empathetic, to be
Hmm.
more patient, to be
Hmm.
kind, because sometimes um, we're so caught up in our own world that when someone needs us or they need to tell us something, we don't always stop and listen. And see,
Hmm.
I did get my mental health first aid certification, and what that does, you don't give diagnosis, you don't give prognosis. All you do is you know how to lead people to resources. And I
Hmm.
think that if you're going through something right now, you are not alone at all. You can call, there's the 988, the Lifeline crisis line that you can call. There are also other resources. There's National Alliance on Mental Illness, that is a national organization that you can find out if there's one in your community. At the end of our discussion today, I can give some phone numbers. There's the
Hmm.
veterans crisis line. There's a lot of resources out here, but again, if we don't know they're there, then we don't know how to access them to help us. But the one thing I would say is that you're not alone. My husband and I have accepted that we are parental caregivers of a child who has a diagnosed mental illness. That's the
Hmm.
other thing that I would say is get the diagnosis. There is power
Hmm.
in the diagnosis. So many
Yep.
times we want to self-diagnose. They're
Hmm.
acting like they're this or they're a little crazy.
Hmm.
Certain words, we don't use
Yep.
in the house.
Hmm.
But there is power in the diagnosis because it does open us up to resources and to find out ways that we can help and cope and that we're not alone. But there are free services. Some people just don't feel they have the insurance, they can't get it done, they don't have mental health coverage. Trust and believe
Hmm.
there's
Yep.
something out there for you, and let's
And
figure out a way to get it for you. But know that you're not
mhm.
alone. You're not
And
alone.
that would, I think, right, that within itself is worth its weight in gold. I mean, I just do. A lot of times because people do feel alone. Especially when these type of things hit. Like because how do we handle it? Like you said, like I grew up in the world. Just that's just so and so, or that's just so and so. We don't even get diagnosis. We just
Right.
we try to muscle our way through things, and then we find that that person just continues down that pathway. And realistically, they probably needed help a long time ago, but we just never got them to help. And so, one thing I will say today, I think Tanya, more than ever, people are opening up to the realization that it's okay. That we can deal with it. I think it's such the message is proliferated to the point where I don't think there's some people I think they're still in that mode, but I think quite a few realize that therapy and diagnosis and if they, some cases even meds are just we need them for
That's
some
right.
for some folks it's just needed. And so so thank you for sharing that. I have another question I want to ask before again we go into your specific work related. Um, it seems like I don't know, and maybe you can put your finger on it to some extent, and maybe it could be the times, maybe could be just the acceptance of it's okay now, but there seems to be sort of a proliferation of folks saying they need therapy, and folks start saying that they're dealing with depression. Uh, would you attribute that to education, or would you attribute that to the times? Because I think people have different viewpoints. Like I think the pandemic did a number on us. I
Mhm,
really do. I think the pandemic did a number on us.
mhm.
And so I think to me, it's a combination. I think it's a combination of people are educated and know that if I need therapy, I need therapy. But then it's also people have gone through so much, mentally and physically. I had COVID twice, and so I'm one of the few people who still wear a mask. And I go in public, I'm putting the mask on because I want to get it again. You know what I mean? And then I lost a lot of friends during that time. I lost 10 friends. People don't know that. 10 people I know dearly. That's a lot of trauma. You know what I mean? And
That's
I'm
the
not talking about friends from afar, but close, close, dear friends. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think that we're here today because of the times, education? What do you? Because I see a lot going on right now in this space. And then for those who don't know, this is Mental Health Awareness Month too. So, hence one of the reasons we wanted Tanya on. So, talk to me about that. What do you think's going on right now?
So I would say it's a little bit of both. I think
Yeah.
that media has helped,
Hmm.
shine a light on things, right? I
Hmm.
think it's always been going on because if
Yeah.
we go back generations talking about our grandmothers or our great uncles or, there's trauma, right? We have trauma
Hmm.
in our families and in our communities, and trauma is different things, trauma is your trauma, right? Your
Yep.
trauma might not be my trauma.
Hmm.
Can't judge my trauma and I can't
Yep.
judge your trauma. Trauma could be losing a job, having to
Hmm.
figure out how am I gonna make money to provide for my
Yep.
family, right?
Yep. Hmm.
Some trauma is, sexual molestation or,
Hmm.
seeing somebody get murdered or, you know, um, trauma could be just moving from one community to another state as a child, right? That could be trauma because you're taking them out of the water that
Hmm.
they're used to with their friends. Having to go to a new school can be trauma, right?
Yep.
So,
Hmm.
there's so many ways that trauma can be defined, but I think that the biggest thing is that, more and more conversation is being had around it. We have
Hmm.
we have shows that are out now, that are hitting our youth that talk about depression and,
Hmm.
anxiety and having, a therapist. I think,
Hmm.
it depends on your family. We never talked
Hmm.
about therapy in my family
Me either.
that I
Hmm.
grew up in, but we talk
Hmm.
about it in my family now because therapy
Hmm.
should be proactive, just like we go to a pediatrician or internist or the dentist, annually. Therapy should be proactive, not when we're in that, state where we need help, right? But
Hmm.
it should be proactive, and that comes from a healthy conversation about it. It's not a taboo word,
Yeah.
because you
Hmm.
have a therapist. Ooh, no.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I'll call you back. I have to go. I have an appointment today. I've gotta go get my hair done. I gotta stop by my therapist. Gotta do."
Hmm.
Be a normal
Hmm.
conversation, and
Yep.
so, I think that we are more, privy we're feeling more normal, right, to talk about it.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
but I think that's because of the education, but even though everybody doesn't really necessarily understand the whole process, right? Because there's
Mm.
individual therapy, there's marital therapy, right?
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
there's work, all kinds of therapists. And some term we use a lot now is like, you coach people through their business, to go to different
Hmm.
levels and to excel. But it's really that mix. So I think it's, definitely we're hearing more about it. Statistics are showing that it's growing, you know.
Yeah. It
So
is.
we're talking.
Hmm.
It is that's the education piece as far as, it's not and then you could say it's trending, right? Use that word
Hmm.
trending because it's scaling up.
Yep.
More people are needing help, but they're willing to talk about it now, which is the beauty
Hmm.
of it is that because we have to have the conversation. And if
Yeah.
we keep it
We have to.
inside, it's only going to eat us inside.
Oh
And
man.
that's when we, get in those situations. But when people are talking about it and
Yeah.
saying, but we can't diagnose it like, oh,
Yep.
I'm I feel, there's a difference between I feel depressed or I'm depressed or I need, in medication, we know, certain mental, illnesses,
Hmm.
uh, they're bad medications and good medications, and it can be
Hmm.
coping mechanisms, but, it's really important that you see a licensed
Yep.
professional
I agree.
in the
I agree
process.
wholeheartedly, and thank you for that insight too. Because I tell you, you know, um, even in the workplace, Tanya, there's a lot of conversation around this. I was just at I just spoke at the Greater Orlando Society for Human Resource Management's mental health summit,
Mhm.
and boy, I mean, companies are starting to recognize this. You know, we can no longer just say, "Well, that's something that's outside of us," because you know, we when you have like some statistics are showing a one out of five clinically depressed rate here in the United States, 20%. You know, that's a lot of people
Mhm.
dealing with depression, and many of those people walking into the workplace. So even though this is us, we're talking more on a personal level. Even in the workplace, folks have to recognize they have to be a little bit more flexible with folks and a little bit more understanding of people's situations because people are dealing with a lot right now. So I
Right, and
think
it's
this,
gonna
yeah,
impact my productivity, right?
yep, big
So
time, yeah, mm-hmm,
we have to care about one another. We have to support
yeah,
with love and
mm-hmm,
understand, that we're all coming from different places.
mm-hmm,
Our home life
yeah,
is all different, but we
totally
come
different.
together, and I think that, those companies that are focusing on pouring more into their teams, insisting that you take your PTOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, like, one time I had a job and, I left, and I gave the last 2 weeks out. I said, "I'll give you 2 weeks notice, and you don't have to pay me for these 2 weeks," right?
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, I was told, "Tanya, you have a check." I went to pick up my check. It was for 2 weeks because I had
Yeah.
never taken vacation. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
years ago, but we have to be intentional for
absolutely.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Self-care is big, and
it's huge.
and it comes on all levels, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, a lot of times we save our days for when our children are gonna be sick or,
Mm-hmm.
for other things, but we never really take our days just because we wanna give ourselves a day,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
to
yeah,
to breathe in,
yeah,
breathe out,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
and lay in the bed all day if we want,
yeah.
right?
If
Mother's
you
Day
want
just
to,
passed. I
yeah,
laid in the bed. My family
mm,
took me to dinner, but I was in one of those moods. My mom passed away in 14,
mm,
and I was going through my
mm,
stuff. And
mm,
I gave myself permission to lay in the bed all day. I went from the bed to the couch, to the bed to the couch,
mm,
and I did
mm.
not feel guilty in the process. And we
Wow.
have to give ourselves grace.
That's awesome right there. And I think that for most people hearing this, that's something that mentally they have to wire themselves towards because the average person has that belief, of course, the old premise that self-care is selfish. And what we've been saying a lot of no, it's selfish for you not to do self-care. I mean, it literally you need to do something to let it all go for a while and look at you, as a look see yourself as a priority. I tell you something real funny, and then we'll jump. I do want people to know about your work, but so I do the self care. I've been doing these workshops, and I'm very clear on what I am. I'm motivating you around self care and motivating you around systems. I'm not a clinician. I'm not,
Right.
all I'm trying to do is get people to do what you just said. Take paid time off. Get go enjoy life. And
Mhm.
so I have this little exercise I do where I pop up expensive cars. So I'll pop up like a Lamborghini and I'll pop up a Maserati. And I said, if a friend gives you these cars, one of these cars, what would you do with it? And the people laugh. They say, "Oh, that's a real good friend. They're gonna give me a Lamborghini. You're gonna give me a Maserati. Well, that's a great friend." And I said, "How would you treat it?" And then that's when people say, "Oh, I put it in the garage. I'll clean it. I'll wash it. I'll put." I said, "But you take it to a cheap place and put gas in it." And they're like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I won't drive that up to the 7-Eleven and put gas in no Lamborghini." And so we get them there. They're laughing. They're having fun. They're enjoying the conversation. And I said, then I'll ask them the question, "Why do you think I'm asking you this question?" And it gets quiet. And I said, we will value a car more than we value ourselves.
Mhm.
We will
That
put time into cleaning that car. We'll put time into washing that car. My kids, a Lamborghini, none of my kids gonna drive that. Y'all drive the family van, but y'all ain't touching that puppy right there. Because and I end with this, Tanya, and maybe a little input on this, what your thoughts are. And I say to this, the thing you value, you're gonna take care of.
mm, I love
Why,
that.
why
That's
do so many people why so many people not value themselves like that? What are your thoughts? I mean, this is I know this is a little bit of different conversation for today, but I don't see people valuing themselves like that. I
but,
don't.
yeah, and this definitely falls into mental health, care
Yeah.
and awareness, and I think that we lose sight. I know as a woman, I can speak, I'm a woman, right? And I know as men,
Mhm.
my husband shares, and we've seen so much weight that you all carry as men. As
Mhm.
women, we carry a lot too, and we
Mhm.
multitask. There's a lot of responsibility. And I know as a nurturer, I want to
Mhm.
make sure you're straight, you're good
Mhm.
before I make sure I'm good. But
Mhm.
we have to learn that, and so many of these things we've grown up hearing, especially when we fly, right? The first thing they
Mhm.
say is what? Put the oxygen mask
Mask
on
on.
you first before you can put it on anyone else.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
those are such life lessons for us, right? Because
Mhm.
how can I really help you or nurture you and I'm not at my best?
Right.
And so even with the organizations, companies now leaning more and having so much to give. I know one organization that's even they give all their employees the Calm app, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but I could have all these tools. Like I have a treadmill, a jump rope, I have
Mm.
all this stuff, but does that mean that I exercise every day?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so they could give
Mhm.
us the PTOs. They could, like you said, the app. They could, make us get up every hour and stretch our legs because in this virtual world too, we're very sedentary. We need to get up and move our
Mhm.
bodies because that all
Yeah.
impacts our mental health. What we
It
eat
does.
impacts our mental
Mhm.
health. Hydration impacts our mental health.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
much impacts, and we may have all these tools, but are we using them?
That's the
Because
key.
ultimately, whatever we
That's
do is depends on our decision. We
yep.
have to make decisions with our mental well-being in mind.
Mm. That's good. That's so good. And I'll tell you something. You're absolutely right. We've got to, companies offering these tools, and that's one thing we talk about in our work. So the goal is to motivate people to want to do it. Like nobody's gonna make you get out of bed and go work out. Nobody's gonna make you say I'm gonna change my diet. No one's gonna make you look, study things like emotional intelligence. How can I become more intelligent emotionally? Because that drives so much of who we are, and so it takes the individual to say I'm willing to put the time in so that I can be my better self for not just myself but for other people. And I
Mhm.
think that's of huge importance. So, but Tanya, I want to transition over a little
Say,
bit and
not
talk
even
about your.
say, I wanna say that too, not even say, right? Because I
Mhm.
say it all the time, but do the action,
Do.
do the work, do
Yeah,
the work,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, do the work. I'm telling you, so I roll out that bed sometime. I'm like, I don't feel like doing this today. I'm like, I
Right.
want to stay here another hour or so. But I get up, I get this old body up, get out and walk around, run, weight lift. I just do whatever I can do because
And how does it
I
make
just
you feel
a
once
whole
you
lot
do it?
better. Yeah, yeah. I may feel like laying in that bed, like all the world's about to cave in on me. But once I start doing that run around the community, I feel like a whole another person. It just changes everything. It's a beautiful thing. And so so let's do this. What's your mission? What do you if you were to say what your mission is? What is your mission in this work? And I want you to tell people about your event coming up because I want folks to know about it, to attend it, to participate. But I think you have a lot more to offer than just an event. I think you have a level of knowledge that people need to tap into to be able to create these forums to be able to educate. And I want to talk to you about that offline because there's some companies I want to go after and say, let's see if we can do something similar in their settings. But anyway, tell us a little
Absolutely.
bit about your mission and things like that. And
Yeah,
and
so, with
mm,
Sound Minds Mental Health
mm,
Awareness and Solutions Conference, our goal is to change the way mental health is shaped and shared in
mhm,
communities, of color. One thing
mhm,
we learned with our son, we've seen the disparities. We've seen him treated
mm.
differently because
Yep.
of his skin, because
Yep.
of his age, because of his
Mhm,
height, and there's certain things that, we need to do. So, but it's
mm,
not just, but it's beyond. But our main focus, my initial focus and main is with the conference is the Black and Hispanic communities, but there are other webinars. We're all about mental health for all, right? Like
mhm,
Nami said. And
mhm.
so whatever we can help, because a lot of times it's just the knowledge. We don't have the knowledge,
Yep.
and
Mhm,
so wherever we can go to ignite a transparent conversation, we were
mhm.
getting real, not
Yep.
just surface stuff, but where we go around and it's panel discussion driven. And
Mhm,
I bring together mental health professionals, licensed mental health professionals,
mhm,
people who are mental health advocates, and those with lived experience. and mental health professionals and those with lived experiences can also be advocates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're advocating just by being a part of our conference and
Yes.
wanting to come and help and share in the conversations.
That's good. I'll tell you, I love the part when you said about transparency. I think sometimes, you know, people don't like that part because it's like we need to get raw, but sometimes you need to get raw and real. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Sometimes you just need to just pull the veil off and say, okay, let's talk about this. You
Right.
know, because we got to get to the next level. And we can't get to the next level if everybody's keeping everything inside and we can't have these conversations. Kind of reminds me of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I said, people just aren't talking. They're battling, but they're not talking. And you can't move the needle in that space when you don't have these conversations. Mm,
Exactly, and as we
mm,
prepare advocacy so we can be better for our
mm.
families, for our communities, and for ourselves individually, we have
Yeah.
to have a better understanding, and so if I
Mm-hmm,
watch a panel and I hear someone who's been dealing with anxiety and depression or has
mm-hmm,
been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I hear them, and one of the questions we always ask is, "How could someone help you or better serve you?" Some just say, "Just be there
mm-hmm,
for me." You
mm-hmm,
know, you
mm-hmm.
don't have to judge me. One we had a phenomenal, set of sisters who were on. One had a mental health illness diagnosis, one was the caregiver, and the one that with the diagnosis said, "I my family just lets me be me, and that means everything." She said, "They don't
Mm-hmm.
get out of bed." You know how you'll say, "Just get out of bed, get in the shower, you can do it,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
wrong with
yeah.
you."
Mm-hmm,
No, that's not how we love on each
yeah.
other and how we're empathetic and compassionate for
Mm-hmm,
one another. Sometimes
mm-hmm.
gotta flow out of we try to put what we think on what
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
feeling, they're thinking, and the mind, we get fooled with the mask. Everyone
Mm,
presents well, but when someone is in need and needs us to support them, that's when we have to kick into our advocacy, our patience.
yeah,
We don't
yeah.
always have to understand or put what we think on them.
Mm. I'll tell you one thing. I'm listening to you, and for all, I'm just gonna say this in those folks in the workplace because that's a big part of where I go do my stuff. This is a lesson right here that Tanya is giving you because one thing we're trying to say with managers and leaders of organizations, that hey, we need a little bit more compassion and empathy
Mm,
these days. Because you got a lot of folks, and I'm not gonna knock them because I'm one of them. But a lot of boomers just say, have the stiff upper lip. That's how I was raised. You get
mhm.
out there and just make it happen. And you're seeing a population that doesn't operate in that space. That's not the space they operate in. And so we need to be cognizant of the times and understanding that not everyone was was just told to muscle through stuff like previous generations were. People, they want more conversation. People want more interaction. People want to know you care. You know, and so I think that all helps in strengthening things from a mental perspective. People even in the workplace, if I'm dealing with depression and I walk in, I can see somebody's listening and caring and understanding. That makes my job a little easier in a way. I can handle what I'm dealing with personally, but then I feel like somebody here cares too. So I think these are all. It's
That's
so important that yeah. I
also
think
like
it's important.
clutter, your workspace.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
your workspace cleared? Are you
yeah.
providing space and bins and
Mhm.
things to be more organized, right?
Yeah,
What are the
yeah.
lights like? Are they, certain lighting
Mm,
can impact our
mhm.
mental health? And we know we
Yep.
have different type of light bulbs. Now, if
Mhm.
you don't have any windows, are you using light that
Yeah.
replicates
Mm,
what sunshine, what natural light?
yeah.
It's so many
Yep.
different things that
Yeah, that's
you're
good
right,
advice right
it
there.
happen
That's
in the
good.
workplace so that we walk
Mhm.
into a place that we can
Mhm.
be productive in and feel good about.
I love that. I'm gonna get ready to wrap up real quick, but there's a couple quick things I do want to ask you. Uh, families, real quick. Um, a family, obviously, you've had your situation, and I think I told you I met April Simpkins, and what her situation was kind of the extreme, April. But if you say the family, because I still see some families that don't necessarily get it. I think some families they still think that people are making stuff up.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? Like, and it kind of concerns me because I'm like, well, they've kind of been that way for a long time. I don't think they're making it up at this point. I think it's just
mhm.
how can families rally around helping that one, or it may not be one, it could be two people, three. I know this one family has more than one, couple, two, three people. what can that family do to support? And obviously, we go for the resources, but just being in the home with the person, how could they be a greater support to these individuals that are struggling with mental health issues? Because I think some families, I think getting a diagnosis, like you said, is one, is first, important. But what else can they do? Just maybe a few things to consider.
So I would say patience,
Hmm. Yeah.
because I know my husband and I, we were getting impatient at times because we just didn't understand,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
That may be walking away into your own space and just
Yeah.
screaming or breathing, but
Mm-hmm.
the yelling can impact that
Yeah.
person going through
Yeah.
something. And so
Mm-hmm.
you wanna be patient. Um, you want to be able to, let them know that you're not gonna throw them out.
Mm-hmm.
You're not They don't need to go, because stability,
Mm-hmm.
home security is important
Yeah.
on for someone who is dealing with, a mental health challenge or
Yes.
diagnosed mental illness, because there are a lot of families, we've seen it, and my husband was told at the hospital, there are a lot of families that just go to the emergency, drop the person off, and keep driving.
Wow.
They don't get out
Wow.
and go in there and advocate with them, because if
Wow.
you're not in your right mind, how can you make good medical decisions?
Yeah. Man.
One thing I say too is, if that person is not married,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you get a healthcare proxy, because that will
Mm-hmm.
give you the right to help with decisions, because
Mm-hmm.
I know in, I wanna say PA, it's 14 is legal for mental health,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
Jersey is 13 where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what
Right.
it is in your state. I would check though, because,
Mm-hmm.
one time we walked in and they had our, child signing papers, and we're like,
Mm.
"We weren't even there."
Yeah.
And at that time,
Mm.
they were 17, which I
Mm.
still thought was young, but
Yep.
we didn't know the law. So
Mm-hmm.
someone told me on the phone, someone who was, ram in the bush, who gave me
Mm.
information, said, "You need to get a healthcare proxy now."
I love that.
And so
Mm-hmm.
when our child was in their sound mind, we went, and, my husband got the healthcare proxy. We always have to use it, because every place does not have it on file, and they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
"We cannot tell you anything unless we're told we can," and we're like, "We have a healthcare proxy," and they're able to start communicating and including us in the process. Just like I
Mm-hmm.
said before, let them know they're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
I don't always understand it, but we gotta
Mm-hmm.
get through this together. It really
Mm-hmm.
makes a difference, and take time for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you may go and scream and breathe, but that patience
Yeah.
can wear on us. It can wear us down,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the shell looks fine. And
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ben, who's one of our, he's part of our Sound Minds Conference family. He said, we have 2 ears, one to hear what is being said and one to hear what is not being said.
Mm. I
And
love that.
so pay
Wow.
attention.
Mm-hmm. That's huge right there. Right. Yeah. I'll tell people that that statement right there was worth the price of admission. Right there, because it's just the
No,
truth. It really
yes.
is, because there's so much that like I'm a father and I got 4 kids, and each kid is different. And believe me, my kids, they have different challenges as well. And one thing I'm learning that listening is way more better than talking.
Mm,
Because
that part.
that part. Just listening. Because sometimes the need, the desire as a parent is to fix things. And that child is not necessarily looking for you to fix, they're looking for you to understand.
Ooh, that's
And
good.
then be the best resource for them possible. And each child is different. They're all different. And marriage is the same. Marriage is like that. Sometimes we want to fix things and sometimes we just need to listen. I mean, it's just, I think our ears do way more healing than our mouths.
Mm, look at you. Uh-oh.
Oh, you know what I mean?
That's
Don't be
good.
trying to write that book either, y'all. I see some of y'all gonna be. Somebody gonna take that and they're
That's
gonna get a book
good.
out over that one. Yeah, but I think they do, because I'm gonna ask for your conference information in just a moment. But I got to tell you, my grandmother. This is something I've been sharing a lot at when I speak, because I think people are just hurting right now. I think there's a lot of pain out here. But my grandmother, her name was Adele, and Adele's from the Bahamas. And I always say, If you don't know about having a Bahamian grandmother, well, you ever had one of them, you missed out on life. But the Bahamian grandmothers are just the best. I mean, I said now the sweet ones, the spicy ones, that's another story. But the sweet ones, you hit the jackpot. So I had a sweet Bahamian grandmother, and we were in poverty growing up. We lived in wherever we could live in. We lived she lived in a place called the Pioneer Homes Projects, and my mom was raising us and did the best she could. But she had 6 grandchildren, and we all love going to Ma. We call her Ma. Go to Ma's house. So it'd be 6 grandkids in Ma's 1 bedroom apartment because we just love being around Ma. And Ma she used to say something, Tanya, that I've been sharing that all over every time I get a chance to get on stage because it really helps heal some folks. And we would go to Ma with all of our problems and all of our challenges. Mom having girlfriend problems. Ma, as you get older, Mom having this problem. Mom having this problem. And Tanya, her response was clockwork every single time. You know what she would say? It's going to be all right, baby.
Yes. Yes.
Every
Yes.
single time.
I
And
love
that
that.
statement would always calm me down. And so I
Yes.
think what I would want to say is people as we get ready to wrap this up, and I do want you to tell people at your conference, it's gonna be all right, baby. You know what? It's gonna be challenging. It may be difficult from times to times, but it's gonna be all right. And I think people need to know that. They really do. And I'm so grateful to Ma for depositing that seed in her grandson because sometimes I need to know it's gonna be all right, baby, at this age. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
I'm grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. You know what I mean? That I can pull on that and glean on it. But so tell us about the conference. When is it, and where is it taking place, and
Okay.
how can people find out about it? And then I have some more thing I want to tell people about you because I think they need you more than just that conference. But go ahead.
I wanna
Yeah.
also say too,
Mhm.
we encourage everyone to have their Protected My Sanity playlist. Music
Okay.
is amazing,
hmm
and when you do that
hmm
Protecting My Sanity playlist, put songs on there that make you feel encouraged and inspired, and one of the
hmm
ones on my playlist is Ty Tribbett, "We Gonna Be Alright."
It's
So
gonna be
I
all
just had to tell you that because that song is amazing, and
I
it's
love
just
that.
like, "We
Yeah.
gonna be alright. We gonna be
Yeah.
alright."
We
Anyway.
go. He has a
Yeah.
church here in Orlando. He has a church here in Orlando. People don't know that though. He has a church.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah.
does. Yeah, yeah. We attended the services a couple times. It's a concert every time you go. It's
So
truly.
I had to share that because
Yeah.
was right on point. We gonna be alright. So,
We're
yeah.
gonna be all right. Well, I appreciate that. I actually put
Yeah.
that in the chat feature too. So the playlist. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
when is the conference? The
So the
conference is when?
conference is, Thursday, July 11th. Our theme this
hmm
year is "Turn Up the Volume." We're turning up
Okay.
the volume on mental health to create a
hmm
symphony of hope, healing, and resilience. So that's
Love that.
what our goal is
hmm
this year. It will be
hmm
held on the campus of Bennett College in
Okay.
Greensboro, North Carolina, in their
hmm
Global Learning Center. It is
Okay.
a hybrid event, so registration opens May 30th, and you can register to attend virtually or join us in person. And some of the sessions we'll have this year, we'll have a young adult panel entitled
hmm
"Navigating the Noise," our men's panel "Rising Under Pressure,"
hmm
women's panel "The Weight of the Cape," "Grief is Personal." We have
hmm
"Self-Care Matters," giving yourself grace and space, and Love
hmm
in Action, embracing advocacy. And so
hmm
um, we're
hmm
really excited about it, and we're curating, getting everything together to get everybody on the ground in Greensboro for
hmm
the conference. And this is our 4th annual. So consistency.
hmm
That's something else too that's key too, like you talked about for families, is to be consistent with
hmm
your loved one who is going through something. Let them know
Love that.
um,
Love that.
that you're there for them
hmm
consistently. So many times we
Yeah.
we react to our
Yeah.
moods.
Yeah.
Consistency is
Yeah.
so important. So,
Yeah. I like what Dr. Goldman talks about in emotional intelligence. One thing he talks about is self-regulation. And
mm,
self-regulation is taking that pause to think about how you're going to respond to situations.
mhm.
And that
That's
takes a lot of that takes a lot of maturity. It does, and it takes a lot of practice. It does because we're so quick to want to respond to things. It's just human nature. But
right.
but it's a powerful tool. Self-management, self-regulation. I think it makes us stronger people. What's the website? for the conference?
It is, please go to our conference website. It's soundmindsconference.com. You'll also see on the bottom of the page where you can subscribe to get our email. We have a newsletter that we just started actually last week called Advocacy Matters. And
Okay.
we'll put information. We'll also send information about the conference once registration opens up. So that's how you can connect with us, by going to soundmindsconference.com and subscribing to stay in touch with us as well. We appreciate
Okay.
it.
Well, I put that all in the information. I got a LinkedIn for some reason doesn't pull over these chat pieces that I do, so I'm gonna pull it all over to LinkedIn because that's where the majority of the people watch. It's amazing. You can look up and see a number like nobody's watching, and I have 1,000 people said I watched it, coach. So it's really weird how it works with StreamYard. So you have a lot of people that take a look. But there's one last thing I want to say, and this is to you, my dear friend. I think you're a tremendous wealth of knowledge that some of these organizations and corporations should be bringing you in to talk about mental health in the Black community. I think that we know it's one of those issues that doesn't get talked about that much because in the Black community we just learn to live with it. But we got to stop doing that. It's hurt a lot of folks. But again, I think organizations that are pursuing insights into this should have you in as a speaker. They should have you come in and talk to folks, and maybe in some cases train. So we're gonna talk about that offline
Let's
because because I think you
I
have a
don't know if
wealth.
you heard what happened in Congress the other day, yesterday,
No, what happened?
with a woman. I don't want to say names, so I'm gonna get them wrong, but there was a woman who's a Republican. She was going off, and she said to the Black woman who had eyelashes, I don't know if it's because your eyelashes are in the way
See
or
that's
something,
the
and they started going catty. That's trauma.
that's
I know
trauma.
one a
That's
story
trauma.
of a woman who as Black women, we change our hair a lot. I could have braids tomorrow when you see me, Daryl. Coach, down my back. And that's okay. I have that right? I
Right.
have
Yeah.
that right. I have the freedom of choice. But they felt outcast at different meetings because comments were made like, "Oh, let me touch your hair. How are you going to wear your hair tomorrow?" Or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's trauma. So
That is
you're right.
trauma.
We have to have
That's
those
big time trauma.
conversations. Yeah.
Those are conversations because the reality is people don't know those little statements. What people don't realize is this: little statements like that may be little to you, but that person carries it.
Yes.
And that's when you start getting all those issues that emerge because that person just dropped those words and moved on. But now that person has to embrace those words and process them in a world where they may somewhat already feel somewhat marginalized anyway. So it's kind of like we have to understand there's a lot of layers to this, and education and knowledge is key, so that I can treat people with value and dignity that they deserve, no matter who they are. And once
Right.
we start to do that, I think we'll be when we talk about being a better nation and all. I think that's when we'll be that better nation when we start seeing the value and beauty of all people. So I'm definitely gonna talk to you about that because I'm moving some mountains here, trying to get into these places to have these conversations. But I know I'm just a door opener. I'm not, people have way more expertise than I do, and I believe that's how God uses me. So Tanya, thank you so much, my dear friend, my sister,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. My goodness, and give my love to the family, and thank you once again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I see you wearing the green. Green is mental health.
Oh, well,
Even though
yeah,
it's the Eagles, represent.
yeah. And that's the only color that's worn in your house.
You know this. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
my
Sarah.
friend. And
Talk to
hang
you
on a
soon.
second. I'm going anywhere. I'm just going to shut it down. Thank you all. Take care now. Bye bye. Yep.